up, cooks? It's your boy, the hater, up in this piece. And it's been a long day. I was stuck in traffic for like 2 hours. It's very annoying. But I'm back now. And here's today's video, albeit late, cuckolds. Today's video, at first I was thinking about doing a Smackdown review. But then I realized if I do both a Smackdown review and a draft review, then we're going to just waste our time. It's going to be like a 1 hour video. So let's just do the draft review, motherfucks. Now, I think everybody knows, and I don't think it's controversial to say that this is the worst draft of all time, right? I'm pretty sure I've said that for the last draft, but this is the worst one. Now, a couple of reasons why. Number one, the main reason, right? Champions are immune from the draft. So what the fuck are we watching, right? What the fuck are we watching? To see where a jobber ends up? You know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense, right? There has to be some logic to this. But it is what it is. This is how they went down, right? The fact is, motherfucks, the fact is, and I'll say it again, the truth is, the reality is that you need the champions to be eligible for the draft. That's like 95% of the fun. The idea that a show could theoretically end up with 2 champions, right? Maybe a show ends up with no champions as a consequence. Maybe the NXT champion gets drafted, right? A lot of cool things could happen. And the same thing can be said about all the other titles. Maybe one show has both mid-carders, right? Then they can do a trade like the next week or something, right? But the idea that all the champions are stuck where they are is extremely stupid. It's just really dumb, right? Another thing that's dumb is this idea that you can draft teams. That's stupid. If you want to do that, just have them draft the 2 people separately. You know, the whole point of the draft when they first started it is that nobody is safe and that, you know, one Dudley can end up on Raw and the other Dudley can end up on Smackdown. But this is not the formula they are following anymore. They are following the lazy-ass formula. And as usual, your boy, the hater, up in this piece, is going to tell you that this was extremely stupid and I'm going to use evidence, motherfucks, to do it. Evidence. So, SmackDown gets the first pick, and with that first pick, SmackDown picks Bianca Belair. Now, you're going to notice a trend here. Bianca Belair is a SmackDown talent, and she is staying in SmackDown. Okay, so that's one person who didn't get drafted really, right? They just stayed where they were supposed to stay. Whatever. Next up, Raw picks Jimmy Uso. So now Jimmy Uso is the first pick, right, of Raw. Bianca Belair is the first pick overall. So Jay Uso. I mean, you can't blame me, motherfucks. You can't blame me that I don't know which Uso's which. I don't give a fuck. What do you think of them apples? So, Jay Uso stays on Raw, right? Fantastic. He was already on Raw. So thus far, nothing's changed. Then SmackDown gets Carmelo Hayes, which they pretty much already had, right? He had a match a few weeks ago on SmackDown. He wasn't officially drafted, fine, but nothing new has happened, right? The guy that came to SmackDown a few weeks ago without needing the draft is now going to come to SmackDown after the draft. Fine, I guess kayfabe-wise, you can say he's exclusive to SmackDown. Then, with the 4th overall pick, Raw drafts Seth Rollins. Now, here's where we're going to do a quick pause. Not only because this is the first round, but because Seth Rollins got drafted after Jey Uso, he got drafted after Carmelo Hayes, and he got drafted after Bianca Belair. Now, while Bianca Belair is supposed to be a big deal, at the end of the day, she was not in a championship match at WrestleMania, right? Seth Rollins was. He also main evented the first night of WrestleMania. So Seth Rollins, out of the people here, well, maybe there might be an exception or two, but Seth Rollins should have been drafted first. SmackDown has the first pick, and their first pick should have been Seth Rollins, right? It was really stupid for them to get Bianca Belair. Fine. You want to go with the whole, like, women are the same as men, get Bianca Belair. But at the very least, motherfucks, you're going to get Carmelo Hayes, who lost to Ilya Dragunov and Trick Williams, instead of Seth Rollins? Like, in what world does that make sense? You know, I get it. Maybe the argument is Carmelo Hayes is a young guy. But Carmelo Hayes, I just clicked his ass, is 29. And Seth Rollins is 37. So I guess he is a little bit older. Shit. Seth Rollins is old as fuck, dog. The point is, both of these guys have a career ahead of them. The truth is that the probability of, you know, what's his face? Carmelo Hayes doing better, having a better career than Seth Rollins is essentially zero, right? Let's be real. It's almost zero. Very few people are going to have that opportunity. But despite this, Carmelo Hayes gets drafted before Seth Rollins. But this is not the only injustice that we're going to have to endure. Now it's time for round 2, Cucks. Randy Orton stays on SmackDown, right? So thus far, let's recap. The only person that's quote-unquote changed shows is Carmelo Hayes. But that doesn't make any sense because Carmelo Hayes didn't really change shows, right? He was already kind of on SmackDown, right? I'm not sure if, if this draft, because they had the draft pools, right? They had the 2024 draft pools, right? And they showed who was going to be in the draft pools. So, was Carmelo Hayes in the draft pool? I'm not sure, motherfucks. I'm not sure. I'm going to look it up as we speak. But realistically, I believe that he was. And let's see here. Friday's available pool. Oh, no. There's no Carmelo Hayes. Okay, that's an interesting twist then. That's an interesting twist. I like that. But it just says, asterisk, NXT superstars will be eligible to be drafted, right? Which is ridiculous because that means you could draft any NXT superstar. Why don't you draft NXT champion? You know what I'm saying? But even if you can't draft NXT champion, why wouldn't you draft, I don't know, Ilya Dragunov, who has beaten Carmelo Hayes? Whatever. I digress. The only person that has switched shows thus far is Carmelo. Next up, Braun Breaker switches from SmackDown to Raw. Now, good for him. He also has a squash match here. I believe that Braun Breaker should be on Raw where he could easily become champion in a matter of minutes, right? I don't even think there's any reason to keep the title on, Damian Priest any longer. Braun Breaker's here now. We don't need you, kid. Like what should happen is exactly what I said should happen with Braun Breaker and Gunther. But since Gunther is now worried about the King of the Ring, just literally, honestly, as early as next Monday, right? Just have Damian Priest versus Braun Breaker. 30-second match, spear, 1, 2, 3, the end. That's all we need to see. Nobody gives a shit about Damian Priest as champion. Now, despite the fact that I like Braun Breaker, this is not a real switch. He just got signed to SmackDown like a week ago. You know what I'm saying? So it's not a real switch. It's just like he's just like Carmelo Hayes. They're bringing him up and they put him on SmackDown just to give us the reach around, if you will, and put him on Raw. Now, another thing that I wanted to say here is that after every pick or so, they would show like the war rooms, like the Raw and SmackDown war rooms, which had like random ass wrestlers. Like Bully Ray was there, JBL was in another one, Teddy Long. Like for some reason, Teddy Long and JBL are in SmackDown because that's where they made their name, I guess. I don't know. But then you had like Magnus and Adam Pearce. And when SmackDown would draft someone, right? Like they would draft, let's say, like they say like SmackDown drafts Randy Orton. Then it would show like Magnus in the back being like, yeah, like doing like this little like hand gesture, like, yeah, we got him. And it's like, what do you mean you got him? Like you knew you were going to. Like it was your turn to pick, retard. You know, like there's no surprise here, right? And then likewise, they would show them getting pissed off when someone would take their superstars. But it's like, this is the nature of the beast, right? If you really wanted to protect Braun Breaker, you should have picked Braun Breaker, right? I mean, I don't think anybody in the world, literally, that watches wrestling would disagree that Braun Breaker has a much higher ceiling than Bianca Belair or Carmelo Hayes, and certainly Jey Uso, and definitely he's going to, I think in my opinion, probably end up being better than Seth Rollins, but Orton being drafted in round 2 is absurd. Randy Orton being drafted after Carmelo Hayes is disrespectful, and it's stupid. It's just like that one time when they drafted Andrade in like the first round, and people were like, what the fuck are you talking about? Andrade's a jobber. But anyways, more on that later. Next up, Raw drafts Liv Morgan, meaning Liv Morgan is going to stay on Raw. I like Liv Morgan now. I really like this revenge tour thing, but nevertheless, this is not worth it. LA Knight stays on SmackDown, motherfucks. Ricochet, for some reason, I can't believe he'd even be drafted. Ricochet has supplemental draft written all over him. Ricochet stays on Raw. Now, the Bloodline, which in this case includes just Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, and Heyman, stays on SmackDown, right? They're a tag team now. It is what it is. I don't give a flying fuck. But the Bloodline should be drafted first because, let's be real, the Bloodline is going to be where Roman Reigns ends up, right? If like, you should have the foresight based on the storytelling in kayfabe to understand that Roman Reigns is going to go where the Bloodline is to get revenge, right? Or to at least continue being the leader, right? So with that in mind, he should be drafted first. Nevertheless, who cares, right? Sheamus gets drafted to Raw. This is a legitimate draft pick because Sheamus has been on SmackDown for a fucking eternity. So him being put on Raw makes sense. Now we've got AJ Styles sticks to SmackDown, right? Another stupid idea here. AJ Styles, in my opinion, number one, should go to Raw, but that's neither here nor there. The fact that AJ Styles is a fourth round pick is absurd. There is a chance, at least in the context of kayfabe cucks, that AJ Styles could beat Cody Rhodes, right? Theoretically, since he's wrestling Cody Rhodes for the title in a few weeks, he could become the new champion. So, with that in mind, shouldn't you want this guy to be on your show? Especially if you're Monday Night Raw, right? Why would you draft Jey Uso before AJ Styles? Like, that's just stupid, right? You draft AJ Styles because the logic behind this is, oh, I draft AJ Styles first, and if he beats Cody Rhodes, right? Again, in the context of kayfabe, right? Then Raw has 2 titles. So that's why you should draft AJ Styles first, in addition to the fact that he's better than 99% of the people that we've got here. Next up, Alpha Academy gets drafted as a mega group. We got Chad Gable, Otis, Akira Tozawa, and Maxime Dupree. They stay on Raw. Then Andrade goes from Raw to SmackDown. Again, this doesn't really count, right? Andrade just got back to the company. Like, I know he's been there for a few months, but he hasn't really done anything, right? He's still new. He hasn't really had any moments. So, in summation, Andrade switching from Raw to SmackDown is completely meaningless. Like if you ask 10 fans on the street, 10 fans at a WWE event, what shows Andrade on, they'd be like, I don't fucking know, man. I saw him at Royal Rumble, you know what I mean? So the point is, this is not a great pick in that sense. Then, the last pick is Kiana James, who is one of these NXT girls that I do not distinguish from the others, right? I think she's part of that. It was like Fallon Henley and Kiana James, I think. Her gimmick seems to be she's a businesswoman, which is extremely stupid because it's like, if you're a businesswoman, why are you wrestling? It doesn't make any sense. But whatever, at least it's a gimmick, so I fucks with that. Nevertheless, this goes to show what I just said. In total, we've had 16 picks. I'm talking about the real draft here because we got more to talk about. 16 picks. And now let's count, not counting the NXT people, right? Okay, fine, counting the NXT people. We've got Carmelo Hayes, Kiana James, went from NXT to SmackDown and Raw respectively. Then Braun Breaker, switch shows, which we don't really count, but we'll count it here. Nia Jax, switch shows. And Sheamus and Andrade, switch shows. So only 6, it looks like, of the 16 picks switch shows. And of those 6, the majority of them are like bullshit switches, right? Carmelo Hayes going to SmackDown when he already was on SmackDown, essentially, is stupid, right? Braun Breaker switching from SmackDown to Raw is stupid. You know, they had that whole thing. Who's going to sign Braun Breaker? Is it going to be SmackDown or Raw? And then SmackDown signs him only for him to get drafted. Doesn't make any sense. What was the point of that contract negotiation? You know what I'm saying? Just draft him when the time comes. You know, it's really dumb. Like, the idea that SmackDown and Raw would compete with each other, like, I'm going to sign them so Raw doesn't have them, is stupid if tomorrow they can just take him from you, right? So, with that being said, I don't consider Carmelo Hayes, Kiana James, she's like completely new, right? She's never been on WWE. She's only an NXT product. So, okay, fine. She counts. Andrade, in my opinion, doesn't count. Sheamus is the only one, and Nia Jax, they're the only ones where they actually switch shows, and you're going to be like, oh shit, they're in a different show now, right? So, this cannot be the standard any longer, right? If on Raw, the same format is followed, it's kind of dumb. I'm sorry, it's kind of stupid. If on Raw we have the same exact format, meaning that you can expect Drew McIntyre to stay on Raw, and you can expect, I don't know, for lack of a better example, Jimmy Uso to stay on SmackDown, then that's just stupid. This draft was a complete waste of time. But lo and behold, cucksuckies, we also had the supplemental draft. The supplemental draft goes as follows. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, who haven't been on TV in forever, go from SmackDown to Raw. No one's going to notice because they were never on TV on SmackDown, and they're likely never going to be on TV on Raw. Baron Corbin gets drafted from NXT to SmackDown. Okay, that's kind of legit. This ends Baron Corbin's jobber reign, and I mean, he's still going to be a jobber, but he's on SmackDown now, motherfucks. Now, with that being said, out of respect, I would have given Baron Corbin one of the spots in the actual draft. Like maybe like give him like, I don't know, fucking Andrade spot. Like he's more exciting than Andrade, but whatever. Cedric Alexander and Ashanti the Adonis are staying on SmackDown. Like nobody gives a fuck. This whole middle draft is just a draft of people that have never been on TV. Then Ivar stays on Raw. Shayna Baszler stays on SmackDown. The OC stays on Raw. And Zoe Stark stays on Raw. So once again, the only person that switches anything is Baron Corbin. And Alba Fire and Isla Dawn switch from SmackDown to Raw. The other 5 people just stay where they were. So there's absolutely no reason to even talk about this. The fact that they mentioned here Ivar goes from Raw to Raw is just a waste of everybody's time. Like, what's the point? Just for us to know that Ivar sucks and he's like the last male pick. But he's not actually, because the OC, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson are the last. The Zoe Stark is the absolute last. But the last like male wrestlers, they also get Michi and Mia Yim. All 3 of them combined are not good enough to be above Ivar. Just think about that. Just think about the logic of this stupid ass draft, right? It's like you have Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, and Mia Yim, who are 3 wrestlers. And instead of having all 3 of these wrestlers, that's right, makes a lot of sense. I'll take Ivar instead. Anyways, it is what it is. I think I've really proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is an incredibly stupid draft. I think it's one of the worst drafts ever. Now we've got Damage Control is going to be on night 2. They're also the women's tag team champions. So that is the only title that gets to, bounce around because there's only one of them. So it's like, it doesn't really matter, right? So the pool for Monday Night Raw, which is going to be this Monday, is a little bit larger. But we've got, let's go through it really fast. Apollo Crews, Braun Strowman, Bronson Reed, Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, Carlito, Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, CM Punk. He's probably going to go first or something because even though he's not going to wrestle for another 10 years. I don't even know why he's in the draft. It's like, why is CM Punk in the draft but Roman Reigns isn't? It doesn't make any sense. Unless he is here. I doubt it though. You know what I'm saying? I don't see that here. So we've got those guys. Carlito, Chelsea Green, CM Punk, Damage Control, like I said. Diamond Mine, which is Brutus Creed, Julius Creed, and Ivy Nile. It's a stupid name that doesn't work anymore. But whatever. DIY, Johnny Gargano and Ciampa, of course. They're there. Drew McIntyre. The Final Testament, which includes Karrion Kross, Akam, Razor, Scarlett, and Paul Ellering. This has OC written all over it. They're going to be like the last pick, like the last supplemental pick. Then we've got Giovanni Vinci, who hopefully gets a push, and Imperium, which is now just Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser. Jade Cargill, she should be like one of the first picks. Judgment Day, which is Finn Balor, Dirty Dom, and JD McDonough. The Judgment Day no longer counts Rhea Ripley, which is very strange, right? Because she's still a member of Judgment Day. So that's really stupid. If you really think about it, that's really, really dumb. Like, why would Rhea Ripley go to the other show, right? So this would also give you Rhea Ripley in the future, theoretically. So Judgment Day should be the first pick. Like, it's not even close in terms of the fact that, like, Judgment Day, like Raw has a vested interest in keeping Judgment Day with Damian Priest, right? Like, even in kayfabe, Judgment Day is going to be one of the bigger selling points of Raw. So that's really dumb for them not to do that. The Judgment Day, Kaden Carter and Katana Chance, that has supplemental draft pick written all over it. Kevin Owens, he's going to be like in the 3rd or 4th round. Legado del Fantasma, which is Angel, Berto, Electra Lopez, and Santos Escobar. Then Latino World Order, which should also go like very, very high because you have Rey Mysterio, Dragon Lee, Joaquin Wilde, Cruz del Toro, and Zelina. So it's like you get like 5 for the price of 1. Anyways, Natalia, Naomi, New Catch Republic, The New Day, Odyssey Jones, who apparently is on Raw. What the fuck? I thought Odyssey Jones was a SmackDown jobber. Apparently Odyssey Jones has been on Raw for a year. Why would anyone draft this jobber? Pretty Deadly. And The Pride, which is Lashley, Dawkins, Montez Ford, and now BFAB. So it's like, why wouldn't you pick this stable of like, a legitimate tag team who can be tag team champions at any given point, and Bobby Lashley, who's a former main eventer. So like, that doesn't make any sense. Shinsuke Nakamura, this has supplemental draft written all over him at this point, but I'm sure he'll go in the 4th round. Tegan Knox, Tiffany Stratton, who should go very high. Tegan Knox should be released. Now there's a few wrestlers that aren't being included. Number 1, we've got Alexa Bliss. right? She's inactive because she's pregnant, apparently. We've got Big E, motherfucks, who is inactive, obviously, due to a neck injury. We've got Brock Lesnar, which over here on Wikipedia it says inactive due to allegations in the Vince McMahon scandal, which is really dumb. Brock Lesnar would have been picked first, in my opinion, otherwise. Carmella, who is inactive due to maternity leave. Man, everyone's pregnant. What the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Charlotte Flair is inactive due to knee injury. But what about CM Punk? Hold on a second. Why is Charlotte Flair inactive due to knee injury, but CM Punk is active despite having an arm injury? Doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Like, Charlotte Flair's probably going to come back before him. Then we've got Dexter Lumis. He was not in the draft. It says here, reason for omissions, if any, unknown. He has last appeared on the June 1st episode of Main Event from last year, so Dexter Lumis is on his way out, obviously. We've got Eric from Eric and Ivar, who also appeared in Main Event in September. He's inactive. Jimmy Uso is inactive due to some injury. Nikki Cross, not there. Omos and MVP, I mean, I think they're going to get fired. Raquel Rodriguez, Jesus Christ, everyone's fucking sick or like beat up, you know? Rhea Ripley, Roman Reigns, he was supposed to be, part of the bloodline in the Night 1 draft pool, but withdrew himself from eligibility prior to the draft selections being made, all right? Shotzi, Sonya Deville, Tamina, Trish Stratus, which should really be like back on TV. And then we got Uncle Howdy. What the fuck are they talking about? Like, Uncle Howdy is not a wrestler, motherfucks. You know, this is so stupid. Like, this is the kind of dumb shit that, like, this is, like, from the website, probably. It says, was originally inactive due to Bray Wyatt's absence, but following Wyatt's death in August 2023, Howdy's status has been unknown. Uncle Howdy is not a real character, you dumb fucks. He has yet to be introduced. So this idea that, like, you know, Bo Dallas is Uncle Howdy, I mean, that may be true and all that shit, but, like, who gives a flying fuck? You know what I mean? Like, Bo Dallas sucks, first of all. There's that. And even if he didn't suck, it doesn't matter. Uncle Howdy is not going to be anywhere near this kind of bullshit. And then lastly, Valhalla. So that's been your draft review, cucks. The truth is, even though I tried to do this video fast, you know, I had to explain to all of you how really, really bad this draft was. And it was made even worse by the war rooms, right? It's like all of a sudden you have like Bully Ray, like he has a vested interest in what happens on Monday Night Raw. Like who Raw drafts? Why? Is he some sort of authority figure? I don't think so, cucks. With that being said, that's all I gotta say about that. Take care, motherfucks.